Chapter 16. Jared woke instantly alert. Something had woken him, but he wasn't sure what. He lay still, listening, as he tried to figure out what had alerted him. The toilet in the adjoining bathroom flushed, and the water came on. That's what it was. Ashley was up. He rolled until he could see the clock. 6:37 a.m. The bathroom door opened, and Ashley stepped out, still naked from the night before. Everything all right? Fine, I just had to pee. He eyed her, wondering if she was ready to get up, or if she was coming back to bed. She moved around the bed and climbed back in, pulling the blankets up to her chin. Her shivering sent a fine tremor through the entire bed. Come here. Jared reached for her. I'll warm you up. Ashley shot him a suspicious look, then slid closer. Oh, you're cold. He pulled her into his arms and did his best to share his warmth as she shivered against him. I'm used to the cool mornings, but I'm not used to them naked. She wrapped her hand around his arm, holding her stomach, and eventually the shivering slowed to a stop. It took a few more minutes before she relaxed against him. It didn't take long until she was sleeping again. Content, Jared buried his face into her hair and closed his eyes. There was nowhere he wanted to be more. The loud bell of a phone ringing woke Jared. He had an instant of panic as he wondered where the alarm was, then realized what it was. Rolling over, he picked up his phone from the nightstand, unplugged it, and answered it. Good morning, Mom. He stared up to the ceiling as Ashley rolled toward him and curled against his chest, making sleepy sounds. He moved his phone to the other side and wrapped his free arm around her, holding her close. Good morning, son. How was your day? I'm not sure, I haven't started it yet. What? Are you still in bed? Are you okay? You're not depressed and sleeping all day, are you? Even over the phone, Jared heard the suspicion and worry in her voice. Jared sighed. He loved his mother and was thankful she cared enough to check on him, but some days she hovered. No, Mom. I was up late last night and slept in. What are you doing this morning? He tried to change the subject. I'm checking on my kids and making sure they're all right. I'm fine. Like I said, give me a week or two to settle in, then come up and see for yourself. Ashley's eyelashes fluttered a moment, she blinked a couple times and looked up at him. He gave her a small smile, but didn't say anything. I wasn't sure about that the last time you offered, but I think I'll do it. Are you free next weekend? Not this one, the one after. I'm free whenever you're ready, Mom. I just want to have a chance to get settled in before you come up. All right then. I'll come up next weekend. Is there anything you want me to bring? Jared glanced down at the woman in his arm. Not that I can think of, but I'll let you know. All right, sounds good. What are you doing today? I'm not sure yet. I was sleeping until the phone rang. I haven't thought about it yet. Ashley had stacked her hands on his chest and was resting her chin on them as she watched him. He mouthed Mom so she would know who he was talking to, then continued. What are you going to do? Once you're through checking on your children? I have some shopping to do before your father gets home, then we're going to dinner with the Harrods, you remember them, right? I do. I hope you have a good time. I've got to go, Mom, my bladder is screaming at me. All right, hun. Have a good day, I love you. Love you too, Mom. Bye. He disconnected the call and put the phone back on the nightstand before looking down at Ashley, who was still laying against him, watching him. Does she call often? Every few days. He hesitated a moment. He needed to tell her why he was there and what was going on, but he didn't want to see that look on her face. Fuck. There was no point in delaying any longer. Putting it off would only make it harder to tell her later. I had some issues before I came up here. She's worried that being so far away will make it easier for me to slip into old habits instead of harder, like I planned. What kind of habits? A cute little crease formed between her eyes as she frowned. It made him want to kiss it away. You noticed the scars on my leg, right? Yeah, some of them look surgical, others not so much. That's because some are surgical, others aren't. I was shot last year. The bullet hit the bone and did a lot of damage. I mean a lot. There was a chunk of bone they couldn't repair. I ended up with a piece of titanium in its place. It was a difficult recovery. I developed an infection and had to have several surgeries. He took a deep breath and looked down to see how she was reacting. Her eyes were sad and sympathetic, but he didn't see pity, which might have done him in. To make a long story short, I became addicted to pain pills. I've been clean for a few months, but it's not been easy. Part of the reason I came up here was to get away from where things were easy for me to get. Ashley started to speak, but he continued before she could. I'm not saying they're hard to get here, just that it's harder for me. I don't know who to contact or who's dealing. It's working for me. I have a hard moment or hour, and I can't just make a phone call and have some in hand in a few minutes. With time, I'm craving it less. I know it will always be there, but I'm hoping time and practice will make it easier to ignore. How were you shot? That wasn't what he'd been expecting. He'd been expecting something about his addiction or his scars, maybe the surgeries, not that. I was in a convenience store when someone decided to rob it. I didn't play hero, despite being armed. I did just what I was told. The clerk used the robber's distraction of telling me what to do, and pulled a pistol and shot at him. He got the thief, but the thief shot back. His shots weren't as aimed as the clerk's, and he shot me as he turned to take several shots toward the clerk, though the clerk didn't get hit, before I pulled my weapon and fired back. Ashley's frown deepened. Are you always armed? Not in the last few months. I didn't think it was a good idea while going through withdrawal and trying to get clean, but usually, yes. Jared could see the question in her eyes, but she didn't ask. I don't think I told you. Before all this happened, I was a cop. Before? I'm not sure if I can go back. I'm not sure if I want to, or if they'll have me now that I'm an addict. Did you work while on pills? No. I've not been back since the shooting. I thought I was getting close, then I developed a severe infection which led to more surgeries, and now I'm recovering from addiction. Jared shook his head and looked up at the ceiling. He didn't know if he could admit it out loud. He was afraid they were going to fire him. Shooting the thief wasn't the worry, there had been an investigation and he'd been cleared on that. It was the addiction he was worried about. But you're clean? You want to stay clean? I am, and I do. Good. She wiggled closer to him under the quilt. That's what matters. Jared was amazed at how accepting she was. He looked down to find her watching him with interest, as if she had a question. What? So, how do you know the Tuckers? That's easy. Brant is my partner. Ashley smiled. I can see that. He would make a good cop. I never knew what he went into, only that he had been too busy to come up, at least while I've been here, for the last couple years. It was Jared's turn to frown. When you've been here? I thought you said you live here? No, I said I grew up here. I've only spent the summers here the last couple years. But you have your own cabin? It's one of my folks. They've bought several as they've gone up for sale over the years. They usually get the ones that are run down and need work, then fix them up and rent them out. If you don't live here, where do you live? I've been in Mesa the last few years, going to school. Been. I graduated last month. This may be my last summer up here for a while. What's your degree? Do you have a job lined up? Teaching, and yes, I start at a high school in the Chandler in a couple of months. Chandler, huh? He couldn't help but grin. Yeah, why? I work for the Gilbert Police Department. Her eyes widened. Ashley blinked for a moment before speaking. You're kidding. Nope. I've been with the Gilbert PD for almost 5 years. Ashley shook her head but remained silent, as if she wasn't sure what to say. Here I thought I was nuts starting a relationship with a girl I'd have to leave behind, well, if I get to go back. When will you know if they'll take you back? I've got to be cleared by the doctors. The surgeon says things look good so far, but we're still working on rebuilding my muscles. It's been a long recovery, the pills didn't help. I'm sure. Either way, once they release me from physical therapy, there's still the department shrink who has to clear me. That's the one I'm not sure I'll get past. Why wouldn't you? Are you having issues about the shooting? No, it's the pills. You think they won't clear you because you took the medication that was prescribed to you, and dealt with some of the consequences of that? It's not like you went back to work and hid that you were taking them. You had a problem and you have fought hard, dealing with that problem. I assume you got help? I did. I did a short-term rehab. I don't think you'll have any trouble. Have you talked to anyone? Just Brant? He says the same thing you do, but what if you're wrong? I'm not sure what I'll do if I can't go back to work. You'll figure something out. I'm sure. You seem to have a good support system, between your mom and Brant at least. I'm sure there are more. There are. He rolled onto his side and pulled her into his arms. Enough about my problems. What do we want to do today? I don't know. I'd say stay right here where it's nice and warm, but I think my stomach would murder me if I did. Hungry? Her stomach rumbled and she laughed. I guess that answers that. Jared chuckled. Here. I'll get up, turn on the heat, and get something started for breakfast. You stay here and stay warm. Do you mind if I take a shower? Not at all. Towels are on the shelf, make yourself at home. I'll grab you something warm to wear if you don't want to put your jeans on right away. That sounds nice. I might keep your shirt though if you don't mind. I don't. He squeezed her one last time, then slid out from under the blanket, taking care to leave them over her. Once free, he pulled a couple pairs of sweatpants from the bottom drawer, pulled one on and left the others for her. It was only about 50 degrees, but not being used to the cold was a hazard of living in the desert all his life. Grabbing his favorite hoodie from where he'd tossed it over the footboard, he pulled it on, went to turn on the heat, and then to see about food.